Unit 8. Never Stop Learning. Page 50. Exercise 2. Perspectives. A survey. Part A. Listen to a survey that a school is conducting about student preferences. Check the students' answers.
Okay, let's start. 1. Would you rather study on your own or join a study group? A. I'd rather study on my own. B. I'd rather join a study group. C. I'd rather do both.
I guess I'd rather join a group.
2. Would you rather take an art course or a professional course? A. I'd rather take an art course. B. I'd rather take a professional course. C. I'd rather not take either. I'd rather take a language course.
I'd rather not take either. I think I'd rather take a language course.
3. Would you prefer to take an online course or a traditional course? A. I'd prefer to take an online course. B. I'd prefer to take a traditional course. C. I'd prefer not to take either. I'd prefer to hire a private tutor.
Let's see. I'd prefer to take an online course.
Page 51. Exercise 3. Pronunciation. Intonation in questions of choice. Listen and practice. Notice the intonation in questions of choice.
Would you prefer to study online or at a school?
Would you rather learn something fun or useful?
Page 51. Exercise 4. Grammar focus. Would rather and would prefer. Would rather takes the base form of the verb. Would prefer usually takes an infinitive. Both are followed by not in the negative.
Would you rather take an art course or a professional course?
I'd rather take an art course. I'd rather not take either. I'd rather take a language course than study art.
Would you prefer to take an online course or a traditional course?
I'd prefer to take an online course. I'd prefer not to take either.
Let's join a study group.
I'd rather not join a group. I'd rather not. I'd prefer not to join a group. I'd prefer not to.
Page 52. Exercise 5. Listening. Do what you love. Part A. Listen to a conversation between a student and his guidance counselor. Check the suggestions the guidance counselor gives.
Hello, Yvonne. How great to see you. How are your classes going?
Well, okay, Ms. Mooney. But I think I'd rather be studying psychology. I chose civil engineering as my major, but this psychology class that I took was amazing. I'd even stay after class to talk to the professor about the material. I never do that in my other classes.
That's great. But psychology is a big change from civil engineering.
Exactly. What if I change majors and regret it later? I'm getting good grades in my engineering classes, but I'm bored. Psychology was really interesting, but it wasn't as easy. Maybe I should just do what's easy.
Don't do what's easy. Do what you love. But you only took one psychology class, right? Perhaps you need to learn more about the field.
So you think I should take more classes?
Yes, you could. Have you ever heard of informational interviews? That's an option, too.
What are they?
You find people with jobs in the fields you're interested in and sit down with them and ask them about their work. You know, the day-to-day stuff, what they like, what they don't like, how many years they had to study. It's like an interview, but just to learn about the job.
That sounds great. So I could talk with a civil engineer and a psychologist?
Sure. And you could even shadow some of these professionals.
Shadow them?
Job shadowing is when you follow someone around at their job and experience it from their perspective. Think of it like an internship, but you're only watching. You can shadow someone for a few hours or several times if you'd prefer. You know, before I became a guidance counselor, I was a banker.
You were a banker, Ms. Mooney?
Yes, for 10 years. But after doing some volunteer work with finance students, I realized I'd rather help people than crunch numbers. So I did informational interviews and job shadowing, and here I am. And I love being a guidance counselor. So, what do you say? Shall we find some professionals you can talk to?
Yes, please. I need all the information I can get.
Page 52. Exercise 8. Conversation. It works for me. Part A. Listen and practice.
So how's your Mandarin class going?
Harder than I expected, actually. I'm finding the pronunciation very difficult.
Well, I imagine it takes a while to get it right. You know, you could improve your accent by watching movies.
That's a good idea. But how do you learn new vocabulary? I always seem to forget new words.
I learn new English words best by writing them down and reviewing them many times. I've been using this vocabulary building app. It really works for me. Look.
Maybe I should try something like that.
Page 52. Exercise 8. Part B. Listen to two other students, Rick and Nia, explain how they learn new words. Who uses technology to study? Who organizes words by category? Rick.
I keep a record of new words I come across. Then I make up study cards. I write the word on one side of the card and the meaning on the other side. Oh, and I always include at least one sentence with the word in it. Then I go through the cards whenever I have some spare time, like when I'm waiting for my laundry to dry or on the bus, and study the words until I know them by heart. Every week or so, I organize the cards into categories. You know, I put all the words together that have to do with food, or work, or home, or school, whatever I can find that my new words have in common.
Nia.
I keep a vocabulary list on my phone. It's organized alphabetically. Whenever I hear or read a new word, I add it to the list. I also try to put down some key information about the word. You know, whether it's a noun or a verb, and some examples of how it's used. I go through the list and study the words as often as I can. I really believe that the only way to learn new words, even in your own language, is by memorizing them.
Page 53. Exercise 9. Grammar focus. By plus gerund to describe how to do things.
You could improve your accent by watching movies.
I learn new words best by writing them down and reviewing them many times.
The best way to learn slang is not by watching the news, but by watching TV series.
Page 53. Exercise 10. Discussion. Learning styles. Part A. Listen to James and Sophia describe how they developed two skills. How did they learn? Complete the chart. 1. James.
I have a huge fear of speaking in front of people. Seriously, I'd rather do anything else. And I'm a lawyer, so it's all about how you speak and present your case. I decided to take a public speaking course, and the teacher taught me some great tips. By memorizing the first line of my speech, by looking out in the audience and focusing on just one person at a time, and, of course, by practicing a ton in that class, I was finally able to improve. Oh, and I always exercise before a presentation to calm my nerves.
1. Sophia.
I love to speak in public. People think if you love public speaking, then it's easy, but that's not true. I work for a nonprofit organization, so I give lots of speeches to convince people to donate money. I would tell stories and jokes, ask the audience questions, but they wouldn't donate money. I was too spontaneous, and I wasn't reaching them. So I started to organize my ideas. By putting my stories at the beginning of my speech and ending with numbers and facts, I had a bigger impact. I'm still spontaneous, but hard facts and data are hard to forget, so I always end with those.
2. James.
I remember I was so excited to learn how to drive. I was 15 when my dad gave me my first lesson in a parking lot. He taught me the basics and then wanted me to drive home on a busy street that first day. He said that by learning on the road with other drivers, I would never forget the basics. That was my dad. My mom was another story. She was so nervous that we never left the parking lot. I never practiced with her again. And it took her 6 months to get in the car with me, even after I got my license.
2. Sophia.
I'm from New York City, where most people don't even learn to drive until they're older. But not me. I first tried when I was 18 with my mom. I wanted to visit a friend, so we went in my mom's car. I thought by going slowly I'd be fine, but I hadn't thought about parking. And in the city, parking is impossible. After 30 minutes of trying to park and almost hitting 2 cars, I just wanted to go home. But my mom insisted we keep practicing. So we drove outside the city, where I finally could relax and get comfortable driving.